So thank you, Nityamed. It's a pleasure and a privilege to be interviewing Inua this evening. I was told to keep it short, so I promise I don't have many questions.
Okay.
Okay. Let's just cut to the chase, and I'll go with the first one.
Okay.
Okay, Inua. On Twitter, you quote yourself as Nigerian, but there's an asterisk.
Yes.
Why?
Because an asterisk beside Nigerian.
Yeah, there's Nigerian asterisk.
That's a really good question. Why is there an asterisk? Okay, Nigerians have a reputation across the world, not necessarily for good things. So I feel as if every time I say I'm Nigerian, there's baggage added to that word. So the asterisk was just to say, I know what you're thinking. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, further quick search on the web. Okay. I searched you. Sees you associated to many roles. I'm quoting some. Poet, playwright, performer, word artist, graphic artist, designer, impresario, etc. Are these roles a question of choice? Do you want to be all of these things, or do you have to do all this by necessity? And if you could, would you be just one of these?
Yes, they are by choice. No one makes me do anything, and there's a privilege and a freedom in that. But they are by choice, but they are also by necessity. It is how my brain works, so I have to find these ways to express myself. Otherwise, I'd end up hurting myself. I need to get it out of me. If I had to choose one of them, I think I'm not just saying that because I'm here, but I think it'd have to be poetry. Okay. If I had to choose one of all the things, it'd have to be poetry.
I'm very disappointed, since I'm a theater man.
I know. But the thing is, I could write long poems that you could put into theaters with other people speaking it.
Yes. You're trying to fix that.
Yes, exactly. Trying to.
Okay. In March 2019, in an interview with a certain Andrew Dixon from the Financial Times, you say that poetry is the root of all creativity.
Yeah.
Now, the late Sir Ken Robinson says that imagination is the root of all creativity. And on the website of the Met Museum, Van Gogh is quoted as saying that drawing is the root of everything. Who is right? Or rather, the real question, why is poetry at the root of creativity for Inua Ellams?
Who is right? I think Van Gogh might be right, Because if you look at the ways in which humanity have tried to create art, we date back to early cave paintings, which are just drawings in caves with rocks. So maybe that was the root of creativity. But I think maybe poetry, because there's something. Because you don't need tools to create poetry, much in the same way you need sticks to draw on something, to create an art form. Poetry is just regurgitating the world as you see it to someone else, with a slight eye to detail, to style. And you don't need tools for that. It could just be us here making poems together. So that's why I think it's somehow cleaner and closer to the imagination, because we don't need anything to translate it out of us. It's just breath.
It's just breath. That's beautiful. Okay, next question. Mm-hmm. So on your CV, which you can download from your website, and I did, you have a list of what you call key poetry performances.
Yes.
You seem to give huge importance to your performance of your poetry. Yeah. In your crazy-ass project, as you call it, Search Party, you actually make the audience choose what they want you to read.
Yeah.
Do you believe it's better to hear you read your poetry?
It's better to hear me read my poetry.
Yeah, is it better to hear you, or is it just left for the reader?
No, I don't think it's better. Okay. I enjoy reading my poetry to an audience because I like to meet people, but I don't think it's better. When I write poems, I expected them to be experienced first without me, because I'm not omnipotent. I'm not God. I can't be everywhere at the same time. So I just enjoy sharing my poetry. But no, I think No, I think maybe I help it along a bit. Yeah. But I don't think it needs me. Definitely not. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think you help it a lot, though.
Pardon?
I think you help it a lot. It was lovely to hear you perform the poems after you one reads
But I think it's like singers, when they write a song, usually they have a melody, they don't just write the words on a sheet of paper. And therefore, it's born with flesh and bones. Often they give it to other singers who do other things with it, and that can be brilliant as well. But it comes with something, so sometimes it helps to, yeah.
Okay. So the next question involves Leanne again. Hello, Leanne. Because Leanne interviewed you, right?
Yes.
Around 10 days ago. You mentioned, I'm going to quote, it's quite long, but it puts everything in context. It puts the question in context. You say black African writers were at a disadvantage. Thankfully, we know that this is not the case. We have proved our marketability. The next step is to make the trend, the books part of educational institutions, to demand that teachers introduce stories, our work, to the entire student population, and to do so from earlier ages, and to teach it as art, not as anthropological texts. This is the next battlefront. So I understand that you want your work to be viewed as art before anything else, and I strongly suspect that is why you're here. But can you explain this next battlefront further? What do you mean?
Because art is a conduit, is the bridge on which so much is built through interaction, humanity, brotherhood, etc. Whole worlds, and the world is still locked in cycles of racism, and nothing is new. I was speaking with Gayat about this, and I was explaining about ancient Muslims and Arabics sailing across the world to land in Sweden to speak about the Vikings. In the same way the British talked about Africans when they landed there, and no doubt in the same way our children, our descendants, will talk about new worlds when they meet. I mean, but the hope is that if we're able to build bridges now, our children then will not learn the mistakes that we have made, and they'll learn lessons from that. So that requires our educators to invest time and effort in looking at curriculums and making sure the texts are inclusive, so they don't just show how vast and incredible and beautiful the world is, but also everything that has come before since, so we don't make the same mistakes again.
Okay, but can you tell me more about the you seem to have experienced your work being seen more as anthropology than art?
Yeah, because...
How?
It's like, how do I describe it? It's when sometimes I meet audiences and they want to know about the factual detail of the stories as opposed to the lives, the people I'm talking about. They want to know how to answer questions at universities rather than why I chose a certain color to describe a scene. So they're more interested in the academic potential of the book rather than the human presence of the book. And that's what I mean. It feels as if I'm a ruler rather than a song.
And would you say this happens in your theater work as well?
Yes, it does happen in my theater work, which can be frustrating. Yeah.
Yeah, probably more frustrating because you have an audience there. So.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, as a black African man who became an internationally renowned poet and playwright, what are Inua Ellams' views on cultural appropriation when it comes to literature and theater? So, how would you have felt had someone white tried to write something like the Barbershop Chronicles?
It's all about power, and it's all about honor. If you do the job well, no one will fault you. So the Barbershop Chronicles was my last, maybe 2 or 3 plays ago, and it was set across the African continent and in the United Kingdom. So it was in England, but also in Zimbabwe, South Africa, Kenya, Uganda, Nigeria, and Ghana. So it's all about black men and black African men specifically, and each scene in each country is very specific, is very precise. But the man who directed that play is half white English and half Iranian. So he's not even African. But it did such a good job, people don't even question, just assume the director was black. So when I think about cultural appropriation, I really think it's about how well you immerse yourself in the culture you're writing about, and how well you represent that culture on stage without trying to remove all the nuances because you don't understand it or because you think white audiences would understand it. So it's about honor, respect, truth, and those things.
Thank you. If you haven't watched Barbershop Chronicles, you have to watch it. I think it's still on NT at home.
It isn't.
It isn't anymore.
No,
I'm sorry.
Took it away.
It's a great play. Michael Billington called one of the best 25 plays of the decade, I think.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay. Actually, it's my last question.
It's your last question.
I think I kept to my 20 minutes. So the last question is in the actual the fuck series.
Yeah.
Which we heard. You opened the book by saying this is still dedicated to the capsules of walking water sculpted by the wind.
Yeah.
Now we're in a very windy island surrounded by lots of water, so I'm curious. What are these capsules?
I was just referring to human beings. We're mostly made of water, and walking around on Earth, being surrounded by the elements has meant that we've had to make decisions that affect us. And my first book, the inscription said, "This is dedicated to the capsules of walking water." So every time I write a new book, is still dedicated to them. So
to human beings.
To human beings, really. But not even that, because I think the label of humanity sort of divorces us from the rest of the animals on Earth. So a tiger is still a capsule of water, well sculpted by the wind. So is a dolphin. So is a lemur cat. So it's about the beings on Earth as opposed to just human beings. Yeah.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, Inua Ellams.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Nitsamet.